Sure thing.
Okay, so I'm going to be running Kid Icarus. I am Maniacal. And I have behind me as a generous couch here, I guess left to right, we have Tracy, and then Rumblemints and Kip are going to be doing most of the talking because I'm just going to be really focusing in on the screen most of the run and not talking too much about it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll leave it to y'all to talk about this one, but I am ready to get it underway if we get a countdown, if we're good to go.
All right. Well, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Okay, yeah, let's start the timer in 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right.
Yeah.
Good luck,
Let's
Maniacal.
go. Good luck, Maniacal. All right, so we have Kid Icarus here. Maniacal's going to be going through 1-1. It'll be pretty straightforward. Just going to damage boost through some enemies, pick up a chalice up here to heal. This is definitely the easiest stage in the game. It would be a little bit more interesting in the levels 1, 2, and 1, 3.
You also notice he's going to not kill anything because we'll see at the end of this stage the little scene that is going to go much faster if he doesn't have any kills. So we'll see that in just a little bit.
Yeah, and once again, to introduce everybody, Tracy is over here. Rumbleman's in the middle. My name is Kip. I don't actually run Kid Icarus. I'll be running Super Metroid here tomorrow night for NoReset. But my Discord is the home of probably the greatest development of Kid Icarus stuff in the world.
I think the only development of Kid Icarus stuff in the world, probably.
Rumbleman's here, and in particular, Maniacal, and then our good buddy Fruit Bat Salad, who's the world record holder, have been developing a Kid Icarus randomizer and all kinds of other cool strats and stuff for the game. So, yeah, you guys continue. I'll just sort of be the person who cheers, and you guys can explain what's happening.
Awesome.
So you're going to see right now, because he has no score, he doesn't have to wait for it to count down, so it goes right through.
Good job,
Yep.
Maniacal.
Now 1-2 is going to be a little bit more interesting. Towards the end of this stage, there's an upgrade room, and in order to earn the upgrade, you have to earn favor with Zeus by performing well enough throughout the stage. And generally what that means is killing enough enemies, not getting hit too much, and picking up enough hearts so that by the time you get to that room, you have enough favor with Zeus or hidden score in order to get that upgrade. And that upgrade is going to be really important because it doubles the amount of damage that we're going to do from 1 to 2, which makes a big difference. And if you ever played this game casually, you probably didn't get the upgrade and you thought the game was impossible.
Yeah, and to be clear, so I've played this game casually pretty much 30 years or so, but I don't speedrun it, but probably will be soon. And Rumblemans also does speedrun it, so we know a little bit about the tech. I watch these guys all the time, so if you're not watching these guys, you should be.
Yeah, and shout out to Ice Physics because that platform has probably killed more early runs than just about anything else.
And especially from the casual perspective.
Yeah, this may have been the first game I ever played with Ice Physics, so.
I was a little low on points there, so I had to stop and do a little bit of a modified farm there, but we're good now.
Yeah, the point systems here to get that upgrade is really goofy. It's based on a whole bunch of things. You have to kill, essentially get, what was it, 10,000 points?
You have to get 10,000 hidden score.
Yeah.
You get hidden score from killing enemies and from picking up hearts. You lose points for shooting arrows, for taking damage, and I think you actually get 300 hidden score for going through a door. But we have earned our favor with Zeus. He wants to reward us by giving us this arrow, changing our palette to green, and we're good to go.
Good job, Maniacal.
We aren't through yet. This guy just needs to not see me, and now we're good.
Got him.
All right. Big sigh of relief for making sure we got the 1-2 upgrade. Missing that upgrade means basically you take an intentional death and redo the stage. You can't really continue without it.
Speaking of intentional deaths, there's the first one that is routed.
Yeah, and that's 1-3 is probably one of the harder stages in the game.
It's the hardest stage in the game.
There are no health refills anywhere on 1-3. There's no chalices, so you have 1 health bar to get through the whole stage. The enemies, especially the Reapets, if you get seen by a Reaper, do a lot of damage. And so making sure you're full on health is a good safety, especially for a marathon setting. You will notice also that Maniacal is not going into any other doors. Everything in the shops is too expensive and not worth getting. The pot rooms would take too long and would probably be a waste of time. and a lot of the other rooms are just enemies that you don't need to kill. So we go in 2 doors in the entire game. They're both upgrade rooms. You saw the first one, and we'll be seeing another one in World 2.
And there are, in fact, 2 other upgrade rooms, but the amount of grinding to get those upgrades is way too slow to actually do in a speed run. And he'll have level 3 arrows, which for him will be more than enough to get through.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about World 3 when we get there. That's a little bit different, but yeah, we definitely, the 2 upgrades make a big difference, especially on the World 2 boss. And other than that, we're just going to be doing a lot of platforming, not falling, and hopefully taking as few hits as possible. You can see Maniacal jumping through those little sea-like things.
Plant thingies.
Yeah. Those do damage you, but they do it on a cycle. It's a frame rule, basically, and so a lot of times you can just jump through them without taking damage.
Nice job on the platforms there.
Yeah, it looked like Maniacal was going for a platform manipulation that sometimes causes that platform to go the other direction, but unfortunately, it's not fully understood how we can consistently get that. You also notice that Reaper down there didn't see him because it was in a door, and it couldn't see him through that door. Nice job, Maniacal.
That was a solid 1-3. I'm happy with that one. But now we're going to die again for marathon safety.
On purpose. So this is the first fortress, and these fortresses are very maze-like and very long, and we're going to skip a whole bunch of it and not go through it. We're going to use good old Nintendo hitboxing to clip through some walls and skip most of the fortress. We're also not going to pick up that map because we know our way.
Also, we're not going to see any of the, I would say maybe the most unique enemies Nintendo's come out with, the eggplant wizards.
Oh boy.
We will see some of them later.
We'll see them later, but we're not going to see them in this one.
So you see Maniacal went to the left there to cause the snakes to spawn on the bottom, and first try
There's
wall
that
clip,
clip.
very
Nicely
nicely
done.
done. Didn't even give me a chance to talk about it. I'll talk about it in 2-4 instead. Here's our first boss, and we're just going to do 50 arrow shots. Maniacal is mashing and able to shoot faster than intended by canceling the shot animation by ducking, so you can actually get a lot more shots in than intended. Nicely done. Twin Bellas was pretty nice to us today, so, and that's World 1.
Yay.
Well done, Maniacal.
And actually didn't get the health upgrade after 1-4, which a lot of times that 8,000 points you get from the boss will give that to you, but he'll get that at the end of this stage.
Separate from the speed run, one thing about Kid Icarus that I love, or actually 2 things. Number 1, I think it's got one of the best OSTs on the NES. Great music. And then I find the sort of storyline fascinating. The first world was basically the underworld. Now he's, I believe, on Earth? And then in World 3, he'll be climbing through the heavens. So it's really a cool game in terms of the thematic elements.
Yeah, when you think about the music here from a game that came out in 1986, I mean, it's just such great music.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you'll see Maniacal was killing a lot of those boulders. There's another upgrade room at the end of this stage. It's going to be his second and final upgrade. He's making sure he was getting enough points early in the stage. The boulders give 1,000 hidden score, basically 500 for killing them and 500 for picking up the full heart. So he should have plenty of score by the time he gets there. He'll get a few more things on the way, but.
And was it 250 for the half-heart enemies and 100 for the single heart?
It's 300 for the half-heart enemies
300,
and 300 for picking up the half-heart, and then 100 for the small enemies and small hearts. And then really, once we get that second upgrade, we one-shot almost every enemy. There's a few in World 3 that we don't. And of course, the Reapers are a little bit tougher, but it makes all the platforming much easier when you can just one-shot every enemy in front of you.
really interesting enemies in this game. Those rocks to me look exactly like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait till we get to World 3.
Yep. Zeus once again happy with us. Gonna
Let's go.
turn us purple. Got our wave beam.
Yeah, that's it. That's another spot where you gotta have that. It's a. If you don't get it, you're gonna kill yourself and go back to the start. Should get his power up now.
Yep, there's our first health upgrade. You can either go through in the speedrun with either 2 or 3 by the end. It'll just kind of sometimes depend on how much you're doing.
Okay, so that little clip is a fun one. I think it's just to skip that little space, but it's not. We're going to see what that does is going to manipulate the platforms later on, so they're real favorable for his jumping.
Yeah, and what it really does is it puts you closer to the right edge of the screen, which allows you to hit the platform cycles sooner so that you can jump on them and not have to wait for them to go up and down. It'll also put you far enough to the right that you don't have to worry about any of the enemies. Now the downside is that obviously you can only see about 16 pixels ahead of you, so you have to know the level really well. But you'll see now that he's so far to the right, these enemies don't even come over far enough to touch him. Doesn't have to worry about him. The one enemies that did hit him are the thieves, and they actually do no damage, and all they do is steal some of your items, which we don't have, so it doesn't hurt us.
Yeah, if you've ever played this game casually and picked up the special weapons from the guy that calls you a weakling if you leave, they steal your items and then you have to buy them back at the Black Marketeer for way more money than anyone ever has to use in this game. So.
One small thing unrelated to Kid Icarus, we're very happy to be here to be supporting One Up on Cancer. Some of the people in the chat are giving me a hard time about being on my phone. I'm trying to donate. So for those of you out there watching the marathon, make sure to donate to One Up on Cancer. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this in now. The more money goes to kill the animals, the better.
Oh, uh-oh. Am I going to I may have to put some money in to make you save them tomorrow, kid.
Oh, Lord.
Kill the animals?
That's right.
Not if I can help it.
Oh, no. Icarus, don't do it to me, my man.
Oh, man. I'm just going to say this, but nope.
So you see how quickly he went over those platforms as part of that manipulation he did earlier on. They're just right there, all in the right place.
Yeah, and you see that hit he took there actually is intentional. He's going to take another intentional death at the beginning of the next stage. So he's trying to lower his health so that he dies in 1 or 2 hits from the rocks.
Nice job.
And another 0 score stage, which is nice.
I always like this stage when it goes back to the black background here.
Yeah. And there's that intentional death. That'll refill him to 2 full bars, actually, which is nice for this stage, which can be pretty tough. This is another wrap. This one's a lot tighter than the previous one, but it saves a bunch of time really early in the stage.
Let me know when is a good time for a donation.
I would wait a little bit.
Yeah, let's wait to the end of this level.
Yeah, yeah, do it at the stage screen after this level. It'd be a good time. So those platforms that he just jumped on, these aren't as important. The first ones, though, if you don't do the screen wrap, and you have to be within 1 or 2 tiles of the screen wrap to even make it, you end up wasting about 8 or 9 seconds just waiting for the platforms to line up for you.
You also notice that he doesn't always take damage in the lava. Kind of similar to I guess it only checks for you at certain frames, so
yep.
If you hit him right, you don't take any damage, which is kind of nice. You just jump through it.
Checks every 32 frames, and then it'll deal 1 damage. So a lot of it's making sure that I'm landing in the lava at just such a time that I'm not going to take that damage, and seeing whether I take damage on a previous jump to know what the next jump needs to look like.
Yep. And these platforms we will wait for. There is a screen wrap you can do to try to get there fast enough, but it makes the level much, much harder and much less safe.
Yeah, that is not a marathon safe strat, to say the least of it. Ooh. Snowman got me there, but it's okay. We actually had more health coming through the first lava pool because I got a good cycle there.
Yeah, something I learned recently in playing this game myself was that those snowmen actually do appear on 2-2. I don't know if you go through the doors or just get the arrow upgrade that's there, but they actually not only do they appear, they're just all over the place. So another reason not to get that 2-2 upgrade.
You also notice you can just run across one gap, one tile gaps, which is nice.
There it is.
Yep. And I think we got time for a donation or two right now.
Yeah, I'm going to take an intentional death coming up here, so
All right.
have at it.
Well, here we have a $25 donation by none other than Kip himself, who says, Maniacal, hype!
Thank you, Kip.
You're welcome.
Oh, that one went.
I wasn't just checking my social media accounts in the middle of the commentary.
Yeah, not just checking. You're also checking them.
Exactly.
So this is going to be the second wall clip. This one's a lot more stressful, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
This one is done while you're in lava, so the longer it takes you to get it, the more damage you're taking, which can, when you're on pace, can be really, really stressful.
Yeah, if you don't take the intentional death at the beginning, a lot of times you'll pick up that chalice that you just passed up. There's another one later that he'll pick up, because it's the last time he's going to have any reason to spend any money. Also, for those of you who may have played this game with bargaining, in the speedrun, you're not allowed to use...
Nice job.
You're not allowed to use bargaining, because uses a second controller, so he has to spend the full 210.
And there's a shop here, which he'll be able to buy a chalice if he wants to.
Yeah, that death at the beginning of the stage was all about that clip not going particularly well.
And there's the eggplant lizards. If you get hit by those little things, you do turn into an eggplant.
Yeah, and that would be a minor time loss of probably just killing yourself and starting over the level.
Pretty much.
So here's our second boss. This is, actually I don't know his real name. I call him Botwoon because he looks just like Botwoon.
Well, we're all Super Metroid speedrunners, so it's kind of a natural...
Hoodra. Hoodra is this fella's name.
And his hitbox is just as bad as Botwoon, so another reason to call him that.
He does have a fairly predictable pattern. He's not very dangerous for the most part. You can avoid him pretty easily. Doing him quickly is hard, for sure. But Maniacal's just going to take it very methodically, shoot some arrows, whatever 200 divided by 3 is, 60-something, and then go on to World 3.
He also reminds me of the boss in the 6th dungeon of Zelda 2.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I don't remember his name.
I don't
Dragon.
either.
He looks a lot like him, and the room is very similar too.
And there we go.
Nice.
Nicely done.
This took a lot longer than it was supposed to because he didn't pick up any supers on his way there. This
Yeah,
happened.
he also didn't have charge beam, so he couldn't open with an X Factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No power bombs
No
either
power
for
bombs,
that,
no
so.
wave.
Yes.
Low percent. Oh.
Oh, and
fell right
Maniacal,
through
you
the
fell.
balls.
Shucks.
All right, so that's another intentional death. Really quick. In fact, it's one of the quickest places to take an intentional death. Easy health refill. Getting ready for World 3.
Yeah, I should be okay for this stage. I shouldn't really take damage here, but
Dude, can
These
you
guys-
please stop killing Shovel Knight? Thank you.
Shovel Knight sometimes ends up in really bad spots. And actually, Shovel Knight's off cycle for me right now, so we're just kind of flying by this one, seeing what we end up with. There he was a jerk.
Yeah, I really like the palettes in World 3, especially this one, the green clouds with the purple trim, but just this whole World 3 is just so pretty. It's just such a nice job with the graphics here when you consider this is, such early Nintendo stuff.
Okay, can we just appreciate the hip Tanaka tunes here around the Reaper theme?
Oh man, it's so good.
This is such a good theme. Man, these repets just have my number right now, but you need to get that jump so you can miss this platform cycle right here. It's a big time save. That's okay though. If that's the big error of this run, then things are going great.
And there's the one place that enemy spawns in the entire game.
Well done, Maniac.
Which Maniacal's been taken to call Ridley, so.
Yeah. One more intentional death. 3-2, I think, is probably the second hardest stage. If you're going to say 1-3 is the hardest, 3-2 is definitely the other big hurdle. A lot of damage, no healing, a lot of Reapers, a lot of platforming. It's a tough stage.
And a couple of the jumps, you saw he jumped to the right, and then that jump up on the platform again, that's to make sure that these moving platforms all form in the correct spots.
One thing about the Reapers that you may have noticed is if they see you and they're running around all crazy and freaked out, they actually don't do any damage to you. for parts of that. So it's good to use that to so you don't have to kill them. We got a flashing Reaper there.
Yeah, and those are definitely, we definitely don't see Metroids on the screen.
Yeah, this game actually uses the same engine as the original NES Metroid, and so I think we have some shoutouts for some creatures that are very Metroid-esque.
Yeah, and if I remember, if I'm not mistaken, these two games came out basically, maybe even the same day, certainly at the same time. And I think there was some of the early password systems. So shout outs to those of us that are old enough to have written down passwords and lost their games because they wrote a 0 instead of an O somewhere. Something stupid like that.
Best password in this game is Justin Bailey. As it should be in every game.
This game apparently thought that its information was very, very secure, because it's like 32 character passwords that are alphanumeric. So, unlike many games, this one, the passwords in this take almost as long as to play back to the point you were at.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So this is Wi-Fi Simulator circa 2005, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah, so these are also really manipulated. Killing those two guys right there and getting them to move in just that way is really important for these platforms. It'll give me a fast cycle here at the top where I know that I'm going to be able to make that jump right there.
Yeah, the game actually uses the same areas of memory for the platforms as the flying enemies, and so the direction that the flying enemies are going will end up influencing how the platforms spawn. Now there was another upgrade in 3.1 which we didn't get, and the biggest reason we skip it is that we're actually not going to fight the third boss. Spoiler alert. That level is too long and too annoying to go through, so instead we're just going to skip it.
Well, the other problem with that third arrow upgrade is, again, trying to get that hidden score up is very difficult because this level is just so short. So there's not a lot of enemies to kill. So you have to go through and kill a lot more of the snakes, kill those little cack attack thingies that come up. Again, another Super Metroid reference.
Yeah, and I love that section of jumping, by the way, that he just went through.
Yeah.
Because it's a very unintuitive path that is actually much faster than doing it the casual way.
Very well done.
Huge shout out to new world record holder in this game, Fruit Bat Salad, for developing that early this year, actually. Just discovered that those jumps are even possible. So 2019 has been a good year for Kid Icarus. Now, my health is pretty dicey, but thankfully I don't need to take any more hits, so I just need to be slow through this particular room here. No,
Oh, hey, that guy didn't fall on the floor.
yeah, he ended up on that platform. He does that sometimes. I don't know what controls that. I don't think it's known.
And this is where you go if you do get egg planted.
Yeah. So what Maniacal's going to do here is he's just heading down to the bottom right-hand corner of the map. And we're going to do another wall clip. And we're going to, as we go through the wall clip, we're going to jump into the door when we're on the right side of the screen. And what that's going to do is move him basically into a room that isn't part of the map. And the game's just going to say, oh, I guess you finished. Here you go.
Let's go.
Go to 3-4.
Nicely done.
Go to 4-1. Nice job, Maniacal. He has now equipped himself with the 3 treasures. We totally got the 3rd treasure, by the way. Don't ignore the fact that we didn't kill Pandora. So now we're on everybody's favorite part, an auto-scroller. Although it's an active auto-scroller, you have to kill 50 enemies before you get to a certain point in the stage. Otherwise, it will loop and you keep going. So obviously, we want to make sure we do this in one cycle. Make sure we get to Medusa as fast as possible.
As a kid, I remember trying to count how many times you had to go through the cycle. And of course, it never came up the same, not understanding that you just had to kill enough enemies to get there.
If I recall correctly, Rumble, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think FPS was telling me that on this stage, the hearts don't actually help you in terms of you don't need to collect them for anything other than the fact that if you collect them, that gets stuff off the screen and lets creatures respawn faster.
Yeah. So the next wave of enemies won't spawn until the hearts are gone. And so if you leave them on the screen from that wave of enemies, then the next one won't spawn. And so you can get more enemies spawned by picking up the hearts and trying to get them to spawn. You'll notice that those flying enemies, as soon as you picked up that heart, spawned again. Gives them more targets to shoot. These flower enemies are my favorite ones to kill. They seem to just always kind of line up real nicely for you.
Pay no attention to the one I missed. But we're on pace for 50, so it's all good.
Yeah, I think you've got more than enough, so I think you should be good.
Yeah, I was able to get an extra group of the first flying squid things, and then also an extra group of harpies. So.
Yeah, we're going to see in just a second this little red brick thing is going to tell us that he got through and is not going to have to
Yeah,
do this again.
hopefully we see the red brick. That's what we're looking for.
Oh, it's coming.
There it is.
Got him. Let's go.
So that means that we're not repeating, that we are heading over to Medusa. The final boss, super tough fight. Make sure that you dodge everything, make sure that you don't hit anything, and you know, basically make sure you stay in that one spot and just fire arrows until Medusa's dead.
Scary music alert, right? That's how you know it's the final
Yeah.
boss.
Fantastic
right.
music. You definitely can die here, and I've definitely lost runs to Medusa.
That
If
snake
you
can
get out of
get ya.
position a little bit, then all of a sudden she starts hitting you. She does a ton of damage, and will kill you very fast if you do get out of position.
And
but-
as does that snake if that thing hits you.
Yep.
And just as a heads up for the organizers, GG will be coming shortly.
Yep.
So be ready on the timer.
It's as soon as he moves on to the next screen after killing Medusa.
Yeah, so,
So
I'm
he'll
gonna
hit
hang
the
out
brick.
on the right wall here, and as soon as the screen transitions, we got time. And time.
Excellent run. Nice job,
Nicely
Maniacal.
done.
Yeah, nice run, Michael. Very
And,
nicely
and
done.
you were concerned about getting your estimate.
Yeah, because dying in this game costs
It does.
anywhere from 10 seconds
does.
to 2.5 minutes, depending.
But
and
we
so-
had no unintentional deaths here, so
yeah, but
very well done.
And because you finished so quickly and didn't get enough stuff, you are a farmer. The worst ending in the game.
Yeah,
get the worst
like the original Metroid, the endings are different. So you know, kind of shout outs to this game and to the original Metroid because there are a lot of really new things that came out with those games that at the time had never been seen before. I'm old enough to have played these games not when they came. Well, I'm old enough to play them when they came out, but I played them, you know, like when they were new, and that stuff was unheard of. You know, things like even in the original Metroid going left instead of right.
Speaking of Metroid, I mean, Medusa was firing Botwoons out of her eye. So take
There
that,
we
Mother
go.
Brain.
yeah, that is a scary fate. I'm glad they didn't run that one back for any later games. But yeah, this was Kid Icarus Any %. Really fun run. It was featured earlier this year in a competition, a marathon competition called Big 20, and got a lot of people interested in it. But it's always good to have new faces running. And so if you're thinking about picking it up, there's a very supportive community around it. It's a smaller community, but a bunch of really good folks, Rumble Mints among them.
Yeah.
Kip and Tracy soon. And
Yeah.
And,
Well, the randomizer is going to draw me in.
yeah. Well, and Fruit Bat Salad has a fantastic tutorial that
Oh, yeah.
will get a beginner into it. I started following it, and it's fantastic. So shout outs to Fruit Bat Salad for
Absolutely.
that tutorial.
Absolutely. He and Angry Irish Snake have put a ton of work into this in the past few months, and just in general. And I mean, I didn't start playing Kid Icarus until December this past year, so only half a year ago. And I mean,
Yeah,
I
look at him
picked
now.
it up because that tututorial really was so great. Yeah,
It's just
thank you.
it's just a really fun game. You know, all you gotta do is get past that 1-3. Because that's where a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I never got past 1-3." Get past that 1-3, and you're good to go.
But yeah, thank you to NoReset for having us here for the Kid Icarus run. That was super fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
thank you for having me.
And thank you to Maniacal for letting us be on his couch and be here for this. So much fun.
Thank
And
you.
you'll see us all again for Kip's run tomorrow. So
Well, I got to say the pleasure was all ours, and thank all of you for showing up, and thanks to Maniacal for this timeless classic. And by the way, you were talking about Metroid and all that stuff, and we're joking about it, but this game was made by the R&D1 division of Nintendo back in the day, which was helmed by Gunpei Yokoi, same as the Metroid series, as it were. So I'm guessing the engine is the same, if I'm not mistaken, from the original Metroid, and so yeah, there's a link there. So let's just once again thank you, Maniacal, and GG on the run. Everyone in chat, on stream, and on site, stay tuned. Coming up next, we have Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards, with Cosmic Heart 100% on the N64. We'll be right back.